Thanks mainly to the bowling of Ashley Giles, the Australian top order has been dismissed pretty... Australia are in deep trouble at 133 for 5. It's going to take something special from the lower order to rescue the innings. Adam Gilchrist has 12. Shane Warne has just come to the crease with him. Ashley Giles is in the middle of a good spell, but Michael Vaughan might well now look to bring back Simon Jones. He can rattle cages and hopefully pick up Australian wickets. Shane Warne's on strike.
Well, they'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. I'm afraid the rain has started and the players are leaving the pitch. I can't see them getting back on for a while.
Well, the rain is really starting to come down now. I guess it's looked this way for some time. Well, here come the umpires and the players too for the start of the day's play. They're all looking pretty refreshed. It must have been a decent night's sleep. Let's get back into the action and say good morning to Richie back.
He'll be aiming for that rough patch.
Well, they've played poorly. I mean, it's wholehearted stuff, but in the end, they just haven't played well enough.
Well, they'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be trying to bowl into the rough. That's the end of the 35th over.
In these conditions, it'd be good to get a swing bowler on, I reckon. I mean, it's just kind of hazy and cloudy. It'll encourage swing.
Jones is coming around the wicket. Jones is coming around the wicket. Jones is switching to round the wicket.
There's not a lot of point in bowling the spinners on this track. Seamers are getting the most out of it.
He'll be aiming for that rough patch. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Be aiming for that rough patch. Tried the arm ball there. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Tried the arm ball there. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Hit straight to a fielder. Jock will be aiming for that rough patch. No need for him to play at those. That's been given as a wide. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jones is coming around the wicket. That was a no ball by Jones. There's the umpire signal, no ball. Jones is coming around the wicket. Jones is switching to round the wicket. Steered expertly into the gap. Just one run. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Very good over. Only 2 off it in the end.
Superb bowling. Top overall round. Now the pressure's back on the batsman.
And we have a change of bowling. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Warne waiting at the striker's end. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Warne waiting at the striker's end. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Vaughan is going to try over the wicket. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Vaughan is switching to round the wicket. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Tried the arm ball there. Was a no ball by Jones.
He's overstepped, you can see it clearly. You know, I think he's trying too hard.
There's the umpire signal, no ball. Stopped in the covers. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Just one run. Jones is coming around the wicket. be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Hit straight to a fielder. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. That was a no ball by Vaughan. There's the umpire signal. No ball. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. That was a no ball by Vaughan.
There'll be bruises to show after this encounter, plenty of them.
He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. He's winded, but I think he'll be okay to continue. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. That was a no ball by Vaughan. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough stuff. That was a no ball by Vaughan. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. Oh, that's close. He's out. Jones gets his first wicket. This was how the innings ended for Vaughan. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jones is coming around the wicket. Vaughan has changed his field slightly. Jones is coming around the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket.
Clark takes guard.
He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. That's a big appeal. He's given him.
Out for me. I don't even think it's a conversation.
Let's see the action replay. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Hit straight to a fielder. Vaughan has made a slight change to the field. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Hit straight to a fielder. Vaughan has made a change to the field. England have changed their field. trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Should be some runs here. There's just one there. Jones is switching to round the wicket. That was a no ball by Jones. There's the umpire signal, no ball. Jones is coming around the wicket. Jones continues. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Got him, yes, he's out. That was a big deflection, no doubt about it.
Would you believe it? He's picked the fielder out perfectly.
You'd be aiming for that rough patch. You'd be aiming for that rough patch. Play it away with comfort. Just one run. You'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. You'll be trying to bowl into the rough. You'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Tucked off his legs. You'll be trying to bowl into the rough. You'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. You'll be aiming for that rough patch. That was a no ball by Vaughan. You'll be aiming for that rough patch. You'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough.
Taking guard is Bretley.
Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jones is switching to round the wicket. Jones is coming around the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. He'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Pushed into the gap. He'll be aiming for that rough patch.
He's posing serious problems, and not just for this batsman, he would for anybody.
He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. That was a no ball by Vaughan. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. That was a no ball by Vaughan. Hit straight to a fielder. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. Oh, that's close. Let's take a look at that in slow. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. That was a no ball by Vaughan. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. That was a no ball by Vaughan. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. That has to be close. Let's see the action replay of that. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. That was a no ball by Vaughan. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Lee waiting at the striker's end. Jones continues. Jones is switching to round the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. That was a no ball by Jones. There's the umpire signal, no ball. And we have a change of bowling. That's good judgment. No need to play at that. Wide ball signalled by the umpire. That was a no ball by Strauss. There's the umpire signal. No ball. No shot played to that one. That was a no ball by Strauss. Strauss is going to try over the wicket. Strauss is coming around the wicket. A little too wide to make him play there. Strauss is coming around the wicket. Just shoulders arms to that one. That's been given as a wide. It's straight to a fielder. Strauss is coming around the wicket. It's straight to a fielder. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Lee facing. The sweeper picks up. That was a no ball by Jones. There's the umpire signal, no ball. And the end of the over.
Superb bowling, top overall round. Now the pressure's back on the bat.
We're about to see a change in the bowling. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. That's a big appeal. That was a super piece of keeping by Jones.
Great work, whipping the bails off in a flash. That's a joy to watch.
He'll be aiming for that rough patch. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Vaughan has made a slight change to the field. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. Tried the arm ball there. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Tried the arm ball there. Maybe trying to bowl into the rough. Maybe trying to bowl into the rough.
Tried the arm ball there.
England have made an adjustment to their field. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Vaughan has changed his field slightly. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jayab will be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. Well, he'll be aiming for that rough stuff. Well, he'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be trying to bowl into the rough. 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 He'll be trying to bowl into the rough.
Well, I think the captain should think about introducing the spinners now.
Jones is switching to round the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Vaughan has made a change to the field. And the end of the over.
Well, with such a massive total on the board, the captain has to set an aggressive field and not worry about conceding runs.
Judd will be trying to bowl into the rough. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff.
Straight through to the keeper.
Wide ball signalled by the umpire. He'll be aiming for that rough patch. Shot. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff. He'll be trying to pitch the ball into the rough. They'll be aiming for that rough stuff.
Tried the arm ball there.
Jones is coming around the wicket. Jones is going to try over the wicket. Hit straight to a fielder. England have changed their field. Hit straight to a fielder. Jones is coming around the wicket. That is an excellent shot by Lee. Jones is switching to round the wicket. Out.
Well, a player of this class playing completely down the wrong line. It's made a terrible mess of the stumps too.
Jones gets his third wicket.
This really has been a fine spell, as good as you'll see of its type, and well deserving that wicket haul.
Let's take a look at that in slow motion.